Alright, video recording take 2. Sorry, you guys. I have to do this again because I found out after I did the whole thing, it didn't record my stupid voice because guess what? I'm using an Apple product. And the Apple products are a big pain in my butt. So anyways, here we go. So you guys, on this assignment right here, the evolution of the peppered moth, some of you guys have had a couple questions about how to do the lab and how to write the report. And so anyways, I want to do this quick little video to help you out with that. So anyways, right here, if you click on this this document that's in there, this gives you basically the information that you'll need. This you will not turn into me. If you turn this into me, I'm going to give you a 0. And I'm going to tell you to do it again, okay? Because you didn't read it. So what you have to do is go through this, follow along. It kind of just gives you some basic instructions and information about this peppered moth population, okay? And what happened to them and why it's doing what it's doing. Here's the guiding question that you're going to be answering. So I want you to make sure you have this in the back of your brain as you're doing all of this assignment, because when you do your report, it'll refer back to this guiding question. So, how does a changing environment such as pollution darken trees and lead to evolution? And so to test this, I have got an online simulation that you're going to use. And so what you'll do is you'll just use this, use that top link right up here, okay? That's probably the easiest one to use. The other one you have to download a thing, which is kind of a pain. So anyways, it's going to pull up this peppered moth simulation. I'm going to show you how you can kind of use this thing to test some stuff. So, again, remember, we're trying to look and see how does changing the environment impact evolution. Okay, and there's tons of ways that you could test this. With this thing right here, you'll just push that setup button, and it'll kind of set it up for us. But you can see that the environment right now is kind of a cleaner, more white environment. And then you have your peppered moths there. The thing with these peppered moths, after you've read about these, is that they lived in Europe, and during the Industrial Revolution in Europe, they burnt a lot of coal to make their energy and to heat their houses and stuff. And so you can imagine the pollution that was coming from that. And what it did is a lot of soot and stuff would go up into the air and then would fall back down on like trees and things, and then turning the trees more of a darker black color due to the soot. And so because of that, they actually saw a shift in this population of moths. Their color, the moths that had darker color were better adapted, and so they obviously survived a little bit longer than those that didn't. And so and then in Europe, what they do is they saw this and they're like, okay, well, let's clean up this place. And so they actually started cleaning up and stopped burning coal. And they saw a shift. And so this kind of models this for us, and you can test some different things. So what I like to do is turn on this little cycle pollution so you can see what it looks, see how the population changes over time as the percentage of pollution increases and then decreases due to cleanup efforts. A couple other things you guys can do, and this is completely up to you. You can speed this up. You can actually turn the number of moths. You can actually have a large starting population size, or you can have a really small population size. So if you remember with genetic drift has a huge impact on smaller populations versus larger populations, where genetic drift is not natural selection. It's basically random selection pressures on this population that are completely random, no rhyme or reason to it. So you have and there's several different types. You have like bottleneck effect and founder's effect and things. But we can see that smaller populations would have a harder time surviving the selective pressures in this environment than a larger population. Okay. Another thing that you can do is you can increase or decrease the mutation rate. And what the mutation rate does, you guys, is it basically will say, we know that in our DNA we have mutations going on all the time. But the less mutations that there are, the less likely it is to have a new phenotype pop up in this environment. And so what this is kind of modeling there is if you turned up the mutation rate to 100%, if, for example, all there were light moths, a mutation could bring a dark moth back into the population due to a mutation. Okay, so mutation rate helps to bring new genes, new phenotypes back into the environment where they did not exist before. Because what we can see happening, let me model this for you. let's say we had a population of 10. Okay, so extremely small. And let's say that I had the mutation rate to 0, meaning that that DNA never changes. What they inherit from their parents is what they get, and there can be no new phenotypes being brought into this environment. And you can see we're starting with 35 moths, light moths, 30 medium moths, and 35 dark moths. Okay, so I'm going to set this thing up right. Oh, sorry. Let's do 30 moths. Let's set that up so we have a number of each. So I'm going to start with 30 moths, which is still a small population. Mutation is at 0. Our light moths is at 10, medium moths is 13, dark moths is 7. Okay, and I've got the circulation pollution to cycle. I'm going to push the go button, let this thing go. So you can see right here that the number of moths, oh look, the dark moths just went to 0 because they were in a lighter environment. But now that the environment is turning black, you can see that those dark moths the dark moths were not even there to increase. And so you can see all we have is medium moths left. But if I was to turn up the mutation rate, we can see that it brings back those old phenotypes. They can bring back phenotypes due to mutations that can occur in the living individuals. Okay? You can also turn up the selection pressures. What that does is that means that it just, if it's at 100, it means that environment's a very harsh environment. If you do not have that phenotype, you have a very high % chance that you are going to die. Okay? When if you put it to 0, you're basically saying there is no selection pressures, basically saying that predators are not there, and so the color of the environment does not have an impact on this population. And so therefore it's not, you can see that it does not change drastically the ratio of light to medium to dark moths because there is no pressure for them to change. And so you can see how important it is, or how powerful having selection pressures can have on the phenotype. So without natural selection, environment or evolution does not occur, and we don't see any change over time. Okay. So anyways, there's that. So you can test those different things. Just let me know in your write-up if you did manipulate any of those, what you manipulated them to, and that would be part of your second paragraph, and I'll go back to that and show you. Over here on the right-hand side is a graph that you can actually use in your write-up. Okay. So anyways, that's how you use the model. So when you go back to this write-up right here, so this write-up is what you will actually turn in to me. And this is a PDF, so you don't really need, if you want to, you could write over this PDF, but I would prefer if you just did this in Word and just use this to guide your writing. And it's got sentence starters right here that you can actually use. So you'll start out, we have been studying how pollution can affect a population of peppered moths and drive for evolution in class. At the beginning of the investigation, we knew that blah, blah, blah. So just give me some background information about natural selection, how does it work, stuff like that. The goal of my investigation was to answer the guiding question of, the goal of this investigation was to test to see how, blah, blah, blah. So tell me what you were testing, and then refer back to that guiding question there. Down here in the methods portion is where I want you guys to tell me what you set your model to, and stuff like that. And then after you get that done, the last paragraph is a CER, so claim, evidence, reasoning. The claim is what did you discover? Right there in that box, you'll be able to put your graph that's on that model if you want to use that, and just explain what that graph shows, what it suggests, and how it supports your claim. So anyways, that's what you guys are going to do here. You'll turn this in to me, this write-up, and that'll be your points for this assignment. So anyways, let me know, send me an email if you have any questions.